Kyle Potter is with us. He is with Thrifty Traveler. And Kyle is with us on the John Schuster Coldwell Banker Hotline. Are you somewhere exciting, Kyle?
I am. I am in my sunroom in Minneapolis, a 6-minute drive from the airport for a flight that I may or may not be able to afford.
That is sort of the reality right now, isn't it? I am taking a trip to Chicago via air next weekend, and I would say it was about $100 more than it would have been last summer. What are we still in the throes of it because of this brutality we saw in the spring?
Yes and no. I think, and I really don't want to jinx it, but I think that the fever might be breaking. No question, there are still some obscenely expensive fares out there. And even for the ones that you can stomach, I do think your anecdote about seeming like it was up 100 from where it was this time last year is probably about right. Why I'm very cautiously optimistic is that just within, I would say, the last, 2 or 3 weeks, our team has been finding deals from Minneapolis, from other airports all across the country at better prices than what we've seen for really the last 2 or 3 months. So, Chicago was generally somewhere in the neighborhood of $350 round trip. We found plenty of flights for $197 nonstop round trip on Delta through the summer and into the fall.
It's good, yeah.
Same goes for DC and Orlando. I mean, under $300 to get up to Canada this summer if you want to visit Banff. And then, under $400 to get all the way up to Anchorage. All of those were probably, again, in that neighborhood of $100, if not $200 or more expensive just a few weeks ago. So I'm not going to work really hard.
Is the fuel cost the biggest issue, or is it the loss of Spirit and some of the consolidation we're seeing in the airline?
It depends where you're looking, but the elephant in the room really is the fuel. And, that's why I think things are trending in the right direction, is that the cost of jet fuel in particular has come down pretty steadily over time since, it really peaked in early April. And it's been on a steady decline ever since. So I think that's the biggest thing. But airlines are going to continue to charge as much as they possibly can. That's the whole name of the game. And so as those costs continue to come down, they just have a little bit less wiggle room to keep charging those higher fares.
Kyle Potter is with Thrifty Traveler at thriftytraveler.com. Here in the Twin Cities, the biggest airport story, besides like how awesome our airport is Sun Country. And the fact that Sun Country is, it's not exactly done, but it's close to done with that merger with Allegiant. We really don't know how that's going to shake out, do we?
Exactly. It is on paper, Sun Country really no longer exists. In practice, that airline, its planes, its crews, all of these things, the credit cards for people who have one of those, that's going to continue to exist for years to come. And so will most of the flights and probably even the service on board. It's going to take some time for, really these two airlines to become one, and for, the folks at headquarters for Allegiant out in Las Vegas, not on the airfield in Minneapolis, to decide what to do with Sun Country as it exists today. And they say that they're going to keep growing and keep things as they are, if not add even more. Time will tell.
Yeah, and some of the interviews I've read from Allegiant's chief executive is saying that one of the big attractive things for them is the fact that, they get this hub now in Minneapolis. But we both know that the way Sun Country operates is a little weird, right? I mean, you notice it if you try to book a flight out of Sun Country. The weirdness of it has also been key to its success, that the flights leave here in the morning and maybe come back and leave again, but they basically leave here in the morning and come back at the end of the day and then start the process over again. That's not what every airline is doing.
That's a good point. And it's also really important that while there are in some ways, they are very similar airlines, they are drastically different. And the biggest one is that Sun Country has a genuine hub in Minneapolis. And while that hub looks and operates a lot different than it does for Delta here out of Minneapolis, Allegiant doesn't really play the hub game at all. They make their money by flying between second and third and even fourth tier cities where they can carve out a monopoly and not face competition from the likes of Delta and American and United. So the reason why I'm a little bit concerned about what this looks like years from now is I don't know that Allegiant is going to have the stomach to go head to head with Delta in the way that some country has for the last few years.
Kyle Potter is with us. All right, Kyle, you guys have launched a podcast that just won a Shorty Award. First of all, congratulations. Second of all, what is a Shorty Award, and why did you win a Shorty Award?
You'd have to ask the judges. I don't know.
Is the show that good, Kyle? I've listened. I don't know. It deserves an award for sure.
Thank you, Jason. No, you know what? We've put a lot of time and thought and energy into doing something that is educational and helps people understand this crazy world where everybody wants to travel more, but the idea of trying to find a good deal or redeem your airline miles feels like the deck is stacked against you and it's borderline impossible. And so we're trying to do all of that in a way that really meets people where they're at. And people are increasingly trying to learn about these things or get caught up or just be entertained through podcasts or through radio or on YouTube. And so, it's been a ton of fun. And while I can't tell you for sure whether it's good or not, I'm really, really happy. I'm having a ton of fun. I know Gunnar, our host, is as well, as is the rest of the team that's working on this. And it's more fun than I've had in my 8 years doing all things Thrifty Traveler.
What are there certain areas that people are fascinated in or more likely to click on and listen? What does the air traveler want to know about?
I think the episodes that we've seen the most interest in are almost always what we call like an on-ramp episode. So we may have this tendency, for better or worse, to kind of go off on a tangent about the latest news in the airline industry, whether it's relevant to every single person or not. But we always do our best to do some kind of like broad explainer episode of the basics. And so we've done some basics about how do you actually find the cheapest flight deal every time, or what are, we had this episode called The 10 Commandments of Points and Miles, which was really just, again, back to basics of how this world works and what you need to know in order to level up if you want to. So those are the ones where we tend to see like the best response, the most downloads, all of those things that you want.
You used to be a boring journalist, and now you get to be a fun journalist. What?
I may still be boring doing fun things.
I mean, as part of the gig, what's the coolest trip that you've taken?
Oh man, before the pandemic, my coworker John actually runs and finds our premium flight deal service. So all the deals we find, he sends out. My coworker John and I did an around the world trip in 6 days, which I don't know if it's fun to most normal people, but it was really, really cool. And one of the top pinch me, I can't believe this is a piece of my job moments.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. You guys are doing a live podcast. We're talking with Kyle Potter, Thrifty Traveler. And this is, in the podcast world, these live events are so popular, which comes as zero surprise to Dan and me, because WCCO Radio live at the State Fair has been popular for generations. There's something that people want to experience in person, and there's a chance for people to be a part of that next Friday, right?
That's right. Yeah, we are taking over the Parkway Theater, which I just have to plug. It is one of my favorite places in the city. It is just a cool, historic theater with live music and shows and movies, and it turns out travel podcasts. So we'll be there. Doors open at 6. Tickets are on sale at thriftytraveler.com/live. I think there's something special about connecting with people's voices. And that for radio, and we have learned that the last year through the podcast, that just encourages this sense of community that on the one hand is still surprising, at least to me. But on the other hand, it just says something that there is something special about this medium.
Yeah. Yeah, and people are fascinated with travel. It's something I always struggle with, like in my time as a TV anchor and now here in this show, because the reality is there are a huge number of people who fly, but when you look at the data, way more people never fly or go once a year on a plane in Minnesota, especially. And so it is an interesting thing where the people who fly, you have people in so many different categories, right? If you're a leisure traveler, if you're a big time like corporate traveler, or maybe your leisure travel sends you into like big points, big credit card point, that kind of thing. You have sort of different buckets of people who are interested in what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It is important perspective that it is an absolute privilege to be able to travel for work, or just to be able to afford to and frequently, or even not so frequently, get on a plane. What we always try to do, we have this mantra in our office where we ask, what does Betty from Anoka care about? And that is kind of our North Star in making sure that no matter what we're talking about, whether it's the basics of how to go to Google Flights and search for flights from your home airport, to the absolute most nuanced, I'm going to transfer my Amex membership rewards points to book an ANA business class ticket. Yeah. That there's a way to meet both ends of that spectrum while talking about the same thing. And that's what we try to do every day.
My wife and I argue all the time about this topic, Kyle, because I'm a member of your website. I'm a member of Thrifty Traveler. And so I do what you say. I go to Google Flights. That's how I always search. My wife goes to Kayak. Is she wrong? Please say yes.
You're just trying to get me to do your work for you here. It's what I'm hearing.
Correct. Yes, that's the whole point of having this show. That's exactly right.
This one time, Jason is right. You should be using Google Flights. It's the best site on the internet, period, for finding cheaper fares.
And people need to let go of this, like, oh, if you search on Tuesday or you are in incognito mode or whatever, are any of these urban legends true?
The latest one is that if you go to a public library and search for flights, you can find cheaper fares. And honest to God, Jason, I'm just going to have to go to my grave shouting from the rooftops and then from 6 feet under that none of this stuff matters. If you're trying to use this as a trick to find cheaper fares, go ahead. Please go to public libraries. They're awesome. Get your library card.
Yes.
But it is not helping you.
Sad. The good old days when you could be like, well, if you search on Sunday after 8 p.m., you have a good, nope. It's just sort of a crapshoot, but Thrifty Traveler does a great job of helping you through it. If you want to check them out on the podcast, thriftytraveler.com/podcast, that information is there for you. But still some tickets available too, if you want to go check them out live next Friday. Kyle, fun to talk to you. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, fun as always, Jason.
There he is, Kyle Potter, thriftytraveler.com.